So this is another edition of our Ticket Tuesday, where we talk about the music industry, the sports industry, and what the shutdown has meant. And it started actually a few months ago. I started doing these goofy live videos on Facebook for about non-essential living, because I was declared non-essential by our governor here in New York State. And it kind of morphed into this, let's talk to everybody in the entertainment industry. As many people as we can find are willing to sit down and talk with us. And today I get a real treat. Was very excited about this. Mitch Lafon, who is a rock journalist, and he hosts a weekly podcast, and you can find that on Spotify, on iHeart, on Apple iTunes. It's called Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. If you can't tell, he's got the flames to prove it there in his logo. That's a fantastic logo.
That is fantastic, and I feel like I'm floating in fire, especially in this hot summer. But anyway.
Well, this is the first time we're able to get you back here to Schenectady since this whole thing started, and you were here. One of your last shows
my last show was
your last show.
My current last show was March 6th at the casino in Schenectady, and
it was Night Ranger,
the mighty Night Ranger. Such a great band live. They always deliver. You can't go wrong, even in when you're playing in a strange casino graduation type ballroom. I don't know if you've been to that place.
I have not gone in there yet. I wanted to go to that show, but for some reason I couldn't make it there that night.
It's a bizarre setup. I mean, it's plush carpeting and dinner seating, and you walk in and you go, oh, is the high school graduation in this room? Did I get the wrong venue? And then the band starts and you go, oh, okay. It's here. It's bizarre. But hey.
I think the first time you and I met was in Schenectady, too. It was a year and a half ago at Proctor's for Lou Gramm, which is a different experience than going to the casino.
Yeah, December 27th, I guess, 2018 it must have been.
Wow, you're pretty good with the dates there.
Yeah, well, listen, I do on this day every day, so I sort of have to be precise with all this stuff. But yeah, that was a great one. I was told back around end of September, October, that it was going to be his final solo band show. And I got a chance to, as he went and said his farewells, I got a chance to videotape that. And next thing you know, it's on Albany TV, it's on Schenectady TV. Everybody has this little, 15-second video of Lou saying goodbye that I shot, which was kind of cool. That was a great show.
2004. And it's been quite a few years of a lot of fun and a lot of hard work. And, just talked over with my wife and some people in the business. And, I just, you get real excited when you start out in this business, but you got to be smart enough to know when to walk away from it too. And I just feel it's that time for me. So please, no. Please, I just want to let you know I've had a hell of a good time.
That's one of the cool things about what you do, and I got a kick. I was thinking the other day, because you had broke some KISS news back in February. I think it was February 4th, when you interviewed Doc McGee, who is the manager for KISS. And Doc said a couple of things in that interview that popped up everywhere, especially in rock news, which was, tell everybody what that was.
Well, there was a lot of different news out of that one. He talked about a biopic that was being put together. He talked about how the final show doesn't mean the end of KISS. It's the end of the road, but it's not the end of shows, right?
But he did say it was the end for Gene and Paul, that this was the end.
Yes, he did say it was the end for Gene and Paul, but it might not be the end of KISS. And it's just a lot of fascinating little details that he was throwing at us, which, God bless Doc for doing that. And they were so incredibly nice. I showed up at the venue because we drove in from Montreal, and I was there at about 2 p.m. And Doc walks in and he looks at us, and I go, Doc, we have an interview later. He goes, oh, yeah, come on in. And from 2 o'clock on, me and my buddy Jeremy, we were in the venue. We had access to everything. Backstage, we got to see David Lee Roth's band sound check. We got to walk around, and KISS had played. I'd done a dress rehearsal the night before, so there were guitar picks all over the floor, and we just walked around and picked them up as if we were picking strawberries. It was fascinating. And thanks to Doc. I mean, he could have said, "Hey, we're doing the interview at 6 o'clock. Bugger on out. Go stand in the cold." No, come on in. Come and join us. Very nice. Very, very nice.
So he drops those bombs on you. First, the movie, that there's
Hmm.
going to be a Kiss movie that is similar in nature to that Queen movie or the Elton John movie. So he
Or the
drops that
Motley Crue kind of thing. Yeah.
right. And then he drops the stuff about this is it for Gene and Paul, but there will be a Kiss that continues. So what are you thinking in your head when you hear him say that stuff?
Well, listen, in my head, I'm thinking I'm not surprised. I mean, listen, it is a brand, and when you retire, Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig, the Yankees don't end. The Yankees continue. So why can't Kiss continue? They sort of wore a uniform, a rock and roll uniform. So why not be able to move on and move forward? And why not have somebody else play Gene Paul in a theatrical presentation? Queen has that sort of Queen. I forget what the name of the Broadway show is or whatever, but they have this show that goes out and plays the music of Queen, sanctioned by Queen, making money for Queen. Why not have Kiss do that? Why not have a Kiss musical, the Kiss musical experience that goes to Montreal and Albany and London? So the brand will never die. Gene and Paul will retire, and then they'll sit back and they'll just watch the cash register go ka-ching, ka-ching, which
Yeah,
I wish I could do.
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, no, and it bothers me when fans say the band is selling out, the band is doing it for the money, it's a cash grab. Well, yeah. Guess what? When the garbage man goes and clocks in, it's a cash grab. He's not showing up for his health. He's not showing up for a pat on the back. He's showing up for the paycheck at the end of 2 weeks. You know, so it's a strange thing when fans go, it's a cash grab. Because, well, yeah. Guess what, Mister Whatever? You showed up at the McDonald's for the cash. You showed up at the accountant's office for the cash. You showed up at the doctor's office for the cash. We all show up for the cash. I mean,
This is not a communist society, as I like to
no,
remind people.
no, and I just find it hilarious when people go, it's a cash grab. It's like, yeah, and they're grabbing a lot more cash than you and I are. And guess what? We would both hop at the chance to grab that cash.
And good for them. They deserve it. They've entertained for 50 years, and I have no
Absolutely,
issue with that. Why would,
absolutely.
I mean,
Same goes for Sammy Hagar and Van Halen and Metallica and Madonna and U2. God bless them.
you
They're
know what
living the dream.
I've always loved this about Kiss, and primarily, it's the excitement, the show, and the majority of the songs. But the other part of it is just the whole
Majority of the songs.
well, I have issues now as I get older with a couple of the songs, but we can talk about that in a bit. But it's that entrepreneurial attitude that they have.
Right.
They'll try things. They'll try the Arena Football League. They'll try the Rock and Brews restaurants. They'll do these different things. They'll sell you the casket if you want to buy it. If you don't want to
Yes.
buy it, that's okay.
Yes. Yeah,
So
and I'm fine with that. How can I put this? Years ago in Montreal, Howard Stern came into the market and people were protesting left and right. Turn them off, throw them off. And it's like, here's the solution. Click next channel. And that's the same thing with Kiss. They go, oh, it's over merchandise. Guess what? You don't have to buy it. It's not a communist society where you are being ordered to have 6 Kiss caskets in the backyard. You're not ordered to have a Kiss t-shirt on. You don't like it? Don't buy it. Just like when you go to the store and you see a whole panoply of chips, you pick the ones you want, you leave the ones you don't. So I don't know. People love to criticize. Like today on one of the sites, Classic Rock, they put up the question of the day: which vocalist can't sing anymore? And I was like,
ugh.
why would you do that? First of all, you're monetizing the content of the people. They're going, oh, Don Dock and this and that. They run stories, they monetize it. So why would you want to hurt the people that are giving you a reason to be? It's beyond me. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I see people go nuts about Paul Stanley and singing to a supporting track live. I go, the guy's 68 years old. His voice is not what it was when he was 30 years old.
Nope.
And I'm
No,
going
listen.
to a Kiss show because they put on an experience. It doesn't have to be perfect in terms of how I remember them being in 1979. Just give me a great Kiss show today.
Well, I'll tell you two things about that. First of all, running tape and running track, and I don't know if Kiss are, but that's been around since the mid 80s, if not sooner. Kiss ran track when they used to play Beth back in the day. Kiss ran track. Queensryche runs track. Def Leppard's run track. Motley Crue, Nikki Sixx has said in interviews, yeah, we run track. So what? The other thing is you can't win. As a band these days, you're charging $100, $150, $200, and you've got the internet in the mix. So a fan goes to the show, they go to the opening night, and they go, oh, it was effing awful. And that's all over Twitter and it's all over Facebook. So the guy that's, 10 cities down goes, oof, I don't really know if I'm going to spend $200 for effing awful. I'm just not going to go.
Right.
And that, of course, ultimately hurts business. And the problem is that not every band can do every show great. When you're live, the power is going to cut out. You're going to trip. The mic's going to cut. The tech forgot to click that button. And you can't let that happen and then go to the internet and then be sunk. And ultimately, when you're paying $200, you want to be entertained. You don't want to come home and go, oh, I spent $200 and I got ripped off. So yeah, let them run a little bit of track. Let them enhance it. Let them add a little sugar to it. Nobody goes to a Marvel movie and goes, oh, they faked the spaceship flying. Oh, come on.
They
Nobody
couldn't get a
does
real
that.
spaceship, Mitch.
Yeah. No. So, we accept it in movies. We accept it on TV. But, oh, God forbid, Kiss does it. No, it's the worst thing ever. Or Motley Crue does it. Oh, my God, it's the worst thing ever. Well, listen, you can't have it both ways. Do you want to have a fun night of a great entertainment? And remember, they don't call them concerts anymore. They call them entertainment events, or they call them shows. It's a show. It's not a concert. So, I don't know. If Paul is using tracks, good for him. I don't want to go to a show and come out of there going, oh, what a waste of time. What a waste of money. I don't.
No, I agree 1000%. It doesn't have to be perfect, but for a show like Kiss, you've got all kinds of issues of timing things out for different visual spectacles and fireworks and flames and all things floating up and down, and it has to be timed out.
If you're going to criticize a rock show, then you're going to have to start criticizing Star Wars and Marvel movies because they're not real either.
It's all a show.
It's all a show.
We go for a couple hours to give ourselves a break from the toughness of life.
Yeah, and these days we can't even get a break from COVID and the toughness of life. We're stuck.
No, we're stuck. So
We're stuck.
This is the anniversary this week of your first Kiss show and my first Kiss show. Yours was...
Actually, this week, July 25th, 1980 is the anniversary of my second show.
It's the second.
August 6th, 1979. So next week is the anniversary. So 41 years from the first show, 40 years from the second show.
Oh, okay. Now I had my time. See, this is what happens when you get old, Mitch. You start forgetting things.
Oh, I know. I forgot we had. No, I'm kidding. No, but that first Kiss show, 1979, August 6th. So theoretically, my first band I ever saw was New England. But again, it goes back to what we were just saying. It was all about the spectacle. If I had maybe seen, God, I don't even know, a band from back then, one of these, maybe I'd seen Emerson, Lake and Palmer or something. I don't know. And they're just there standing on the stage, playing their keyboard. I might not have had that moment, that epiphany. When I saw Kiss and I saw them rise out of the ground on the Dynasty tour, and they had a soundtrack of, just noise, like a rumble going, and then the smoke, and then they just appeared. And they stood there still for a couple of seconds, and then they started moving.
And they stood there still. It seemed like an eternity when I was sitting there watching it going, are these guys going to move?
Yeah. And then they started moving. And it was enthralling. I mean, how old was I at the time? It was August of 79. So I was 10. To a 10-year-old, it's like watching Thor and Superman come to life right in front of you. And then they played the songs we loved and the songs we knew. And then they played the songs from the new Dynasty album, which was the first album I had bought with my own money. And so suddenly I'm hearing, I Was Made for Loving You. And I'm hearing 2000 Man. And I'm hearing, New York Groove and Ace's guitar flashing. And that was it. And I'm telling you, had I seen I don't know, Styx first, maybe, I don't think I would have been that captivated with live shows. It was fascinating.
Well, my first show actually came the year before at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie because I was trying to do the math here. And again, it gets tougher as you get older, trying to remember when things happen and when they didn't happen. And my first show was Angel at
Nice.
the Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie. And I remember thinking the road crew came out and stacked up these boxes. And this big angel head is up above that they've got somehow animated where it's talking, and on the eighth day God gave you Punky Meadows, and then the box is lit up and out walks Punky Meadows with his guitar, and then they bust into the show. So I was like, man, is this what every show is like? Then my second show is Kiss. I'm like, what? This is great.
Well, yeah, it is. That's what every show is like. Yeah, and my second show happened to have also been Kiss Part 2. I saw the July 25th, 1980 Palladium show, the infamous Palladium show, the first show with Eric Carr. It was fascinating. I mean, 2 Kiss shows, 2 drummers. Hey, pretty good average. Figured my
Not
third
bad.
show, figured my third though I'd have a new guy, but no, it was fascinating to see them at the Montreal Forum in this big thing, the big hoopla, and then actually driving to New York City, which as a Montrealer was very exciting, being 11 years old now, and then seeing them up close. And I had just dead center seats, and seeing them up close in this little tiny club, and also feeling as if somebody was going to, attack me at any moment because it was New York. In Montreal, we make up stories about New York, especially in 1980. And it was just like, it felt dangerous, and it felt sweaty, and it felt hot, and it felt special. And I remember thinking, and I told my mom at the time, I said, we have to see this show. It's the first time with a new drummer. We will be talking about this forever. And who knew, that they almost broke up after that. And then, Vinnie Vince, and then it was like, oh boy, Kiss is not going to make it past 1982. But here we are in 2020 going, that was the show. That was the one. And it's lasted 40 years. 40 years. What a memory.
It's funny because I go back and I went through and dug out when I went to see Kiss in that 79 show at the Garden.
Mm-hmm.
My Aunt Joan smuggled in her camera with telephoto lens into Madison Square Garden. Now, my aunt must have been in her 30s at that point, and nobody checked her.
Where'd she smuggle it in? Come on, where'd she smuggle it? Was it in the bra? Was it in the bra?
The telephoto was too big to be able to get any look there from where we were in the upper deck, Mitch. But, I took the pictures. Here's one here.
Oh, look at that. Nice.
That was another one.
Oh, that is fantastic.
And a nice kind of picture of Peter Criss, whose head gets blocked out by the speakers a bit. But
that's the worst part about being a drummer. You're never in the sight line.
No, you're always cut out. And I took those and developed them myself in photography class in high school. I was like, well, this is great. I don't know how we got the camera in it, or were able not kicked out for taking pictures, because at that point in time, you weren't allowed to do any of that stuff.
But theoretically, you're still not allowed, but how are you going to prevent all the cell phones?
Oh, you can't stop it now.
Yeah, I mean, Prince tried and a couple others tried, and you got to put your phone in a bag, and it's like, leave us alone.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just a part of life now, and you can't hide it. So, and I'm drinking a beer here this afternoon out of my Cheap Trick koozie, which was my third show.
Oh, look at this. I've got my Metallica. Whoops. Let's see if I can get it into frame. Oh, I can't get it into frame. Oh, there
it is. Oh, and Coffee for All. I like that.
And Coffee for All. That's right.
So you've been doing this show for a number of years. When I became aware of you, you were doing the 3 sides of the coin thing with Brandvold and those guys talking Kiss stuff. And then you started doing this. And what I love about what you do, Mitch, is you care. You're a fan. You talk to people. You're not there to bust their balls. You're not there to find some gotcha moment to get publicity. But you actually care and are interested and have knowledge of the music that the people you're dealing with. Why go down that route? Why not be the ball buster?
Wow, that's a loaded question, but the simple answer is this. First of all, I do the show to celebrate music. I don't do the show to denigrate the music. I believe a lot in choice. You don't have to listen. If you don't like Bjork, don't listen to Bjork, but you don't have to go online and say she's horrible. There's no purpose to that. There's just none, because somebody else down the road does like Bjork. So why poo-poo on their parade? That's just the way I look at it. And second of all, um, I make my living doing this, and so if I'm gonna make my living doing this, we have to be on the same team. You can't just go against everybody and be this horrible, everybody sucks and this album's horrible. And I also don't think that's what the fans want to hear. When you tune in and you want to hear me talk to Klaus Meine of the Scorpions, chances are you're a Klaus Meine of the Scorpions fan. And you don't want to tune into the show going, all right, Klaus is on the show, and then have me spend half the hour going, Klaus, you can't sing. Klaus, you're horrible. Why would you want to tune into that? You're a fan of the band. Why would you want to tune in and listen to some idiot talk about how horrible your band is? I mean, I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't want to do that. And then also there is the business aspect. There's a lot of connect the dots. So when you talk to, and I'm just using the Scorpions as an example, when you talk to the Scorpions, well, they're connected through a company to Kiss, to Def Leppard, and to some other ones. So if you shit all over the Scorpions, the guy that sets it up is going to go, guess what? You're not talking to Def Leppard and Kiss now. You can go F yourself. And that doesn't do me any good either. And that's
Right.
why you see a lot of these podcasts, they come out, they'll do 12 episodes, and then they'll never do an episode again. Why? Because on 12 episodes, they pissed off everybody, and all the publicists said, oh yeah, don't go to him. But ultimately, business sides aside, I like what I'm doing. I like the fans. I like getting a positive thing out of it, because that's how I try to live. I don't try to scream and yell and tell people they're horrible. That's not what I do. Is it Canadian? Maybe it's Canadian. I don't know. I'm just not interested. I mean, oh, you can't see it, but there's a huge stack of CDs behind me that I blocked out with my logo. But those CDs, if you saw them before I put up the logo, that's what I bought in the last year, and it's probably like 500 CDs. So I just don't see the purpose of bad mouthing stuff. I look on my Facebook and I'll put a picture up of whatever Motley Crue, and then some idiot will go, "Oh, Vince is a fat," blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why didn't you just scroll by? Just scroll
Right.
by.
You don't have to comment.
You don't have to comment. I go through a lot of stuff on Facebook, whether it's some of the political stuff that's going on in the States or in Canada or some other bands. And in my head, I'll go, what a fucking wall. Sorry for the language, but I'll just scroll by. I won't leave I'll think it. I might even say it out loud if I'm alone in the house, but I'm not going to take the time to type, because why? Somebody else likes it. Somebody else encourages, so that's the reason. I just don't feel the need to denigrate what I'm trying to celebrate.
No,
So
listen, I agree with you. That's one of the reasons why I find you appealing, and that's one of the reasons why I follow you, and that's one of the reasons why I listen to your show. Is that, and the reason I asked the loaded question is because I know who you are, and I know what it is that you're about, and what it is that you care about. And a lot of folks just are there on Twitter and Facebook and all the social media just to see if they can say something snarky and mean and nasty to go somewhere.
Right, because it somehow renders them important, or they get that sense of, oh, I was able to say Don Dawkins can't sing. Look at me. And it's like, why would you say that? Don's given you 40 years of his life. You can't celebrate that he's given you 40 years of his life. What other profession does somebody entertain you for 40 years? Go back to like baseball. You go, Nolan Ryan was the greatest pitcher ever, and I loved everything he did. And then look at how many years he gave you. What, 10, 12? Maybe. I've got an autograph here of a hockey player. Whoops, you can't see it, but it's Ken Dryden, the goalie for the Canadians. He played from like 72 to 79. He gave me 7 years. Gene and Paul have given me nearly 50. So why would I bitch out Gene and Paul? They've given me 50 years of greatness and of fun and of enjoyment and of discussion and of banter and of anticipation. And they've given me 50 years of all the good things in life.
Exactly.
and any other profession, football, baseball, TV shows, Cheers, lasted what, 12 years? MASH lasted. They're all ephemeral. These guys are here almost forever, even when they pass away. John Lennon passed away, obviously, 40 years ago. And yet we still talk about him and we still listen to his music. Nobody goes back and watches Nolan Ryan's no-hitter in 19 whatever. Nobody's going back and watching the Super Bowl. Nobody's doing that. But you're playing these records, and
Those
you're
records are timeless.
well, yeah. So I don't know. I just don't understand the need to be mean. And if and I'm going to keep saying Nolan Ryan because he was my favorite pitcher, but if Nolan Ryan had never retired and was still pitching, how god awful would he be at whatever age?
Right. And he went into his 40s too. He didn't stop when he.
No, or Joe Theismann, my favorite quarterback from the Washington football club. If Joe Theismann had never retired, what is he now? 69, 70? I mean, how awful would he be? So stop it. Stop it.
Right. So this week I'm celebrating a milestone birthday, and I found this T-shirt online. I'm wearing it today. I'm breaking it in here because I still got a few days here before the big day here, and it's got double meaning.
There you go. I can't drive 55.
So in addition to the Kiss Boys, anybody who knows me knows Sammy Hagar is like up on the second pedestal right next to them, just for entertainment value and showbiz, and the same thing with Kiss, the entrepreneurship, starting the businesses. How many times have you seen Sammy and Van Halen?
Sammy in Van Halen, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. I saw the Balance Tour at least 2 or 3 times. What else did I see? I don't think I saw the 5150 tour. I don't think it actually came to Montreal, or if it did, I missed it. What was after that?
That would OU812 was after that.
Yeah, I don't think OU812 made it to Montreal. I might have seen him on the FUCK tour, so I might have seen him 3 or 4 times. Not a lot, actually. Van Halen was somewhat allergic to Montreal in the Sammy years.
Really?
But yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Promoter, I don't know. But I've seen him at least 3 or 4 times, and I saw him solo. In fact, a year ago, May of 2019.
And he still puts on an amazing show.
Oh, he's a lot of fun, and the show I saw was in Guilford. I'm used to it, but it was in Guilford, New Hampshire, and Night Ranger was opening up. Night Ranger and Sammy Hagar, and it was a fantastic show. I got to have my picture taken with Sammy, and it just you can't beat that. And I love Sammy Hagar with Van Halen. To me, that was my Van Halen. Van Halen was my brother's band in 79, 80, 81. I was all into the Kiss and the Cheap Trick and the Aerosmith.
Right.
And when Sammy left, or when David left, I should say, I just wasn't a Van Halen fan. And I had a friend named Dave, and he bought that tape, and we would drive around in his little Honda Civic, I guess it was, and, drive off to go play tennis or drive off to go to the pool hall or whatever. And he played that tape day in and everywhere we went, he just played that tape, and I fell in love with 5150, and I bought it. And then I started going back, I got the Eat 'Em and Smile with David because I was kind of the other album du jour. And then I worked my way back, but I liked what I saw on MTV. I liked When It's Love. I liked Don't Tell Me. I liked those, round, not Round and Round. What's the Van Halen? Run Around? No,
Run Around.
Run Around. I like that. I mean, I was all into the 80s melodic rock. I loved Bon Jovi. I loved Def Leppard, and Van Halen was doing Bon Jovi. I mean, everybody was doing Bon Jovi in the 80s at some point.
Now, you mentioned Bon Jovi. That was one of your favorite concert experiences, wasn't it? Seeing them on Slippery?
Yeah, I believe it was July 16th, 1987. You might have to check that, but I believe it was July 16th, 1987 with Cinderella opening. And that was very exciting because, Canadian radio as opposed to American radio, and Canadian music television as opposed to American, we got Much Music in 1984. You got MTV, I guess it was 80 or 81. So we were
Right.
behind the times. And up here we have something called CanCon. And CanCon is a shortened version of Canadian content. And radio stations and Much Music at the time had to run X amount, sometimes up to 70% of the Canadian had to be Canadian. So we got a lot of Luba and Gowan and Platinum Blonde and Honeymoon Suite. And so for us to get an American band, they had to rise above, so you didn't get the Rats and the Dawkins and that because they didn't rise above. But eventually U2 rose above, eventually Madonna rose above, and eventually Bon Jovi rose, and you could see them on the TV, right? It was not like going to MTV where they were being played every 20 minutes. You had to watch for the Pepsi Power Hour and stuff.
Right.
And I saw You Give Love a Bad Name, and I fell in love with that song. And then the next day in the newspaper, I saw Discus is selling the cassette for $5.99, and I went, oh, I gotta go buy this. And if it's horrible, I lost $6.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? And I went down to the mall, Fairview, with my buddy Dave and his Honda Civic. I bought the tape and I said to him, can we please play it on the way home? He had to pop out whatever he was listening to, probably 5150 still. And we put it in and we heard the whole first side by the time we come home. And I just fell in love with it. And so it was my first sort of new purchase of a new band. I had bought Aerosmith, I had bought Cheap Trick, I had bought Kiss, I had bought all these bands that we all knew about for years. But this was my first foray into a new band. And so when they came to town by 87, they had risen above. The show was sold out. Then they had this hip new band, Cinderella. It was like the perfect storm. And so when I went and it was summer, everything was right. And so what a great show. And they delivered. Here was this band that I saw accidentally on TV, bought the cassette because it was cheap on sale, and they showed up to the Forum, sold out Forum, and they were right. I mean, John was a great frontman, so it was a memorable show, and that's another one that sort of got me, because as Kiss ended and as Cheap Trick sort of ended, in the beginning of the 80s, I got into Rod Stewart. I got into Huey Lewis and the News. I got into a lot of softer rock. And Bon Jovi put me back into sort of the more harder rock. And I know now in 2020, you go Bon Jovi hard rock. Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, but in 1986, 87, they were.
At the time, there was not a whole lot else.
No, and if you listen to 7800 Fahrenheit and Price of Love and King of the Mountain, there's some pretty heavy stuff going on there. And they had opened for Judas Priest. There was a lot of heavy stuff going on. So that got me into Def Leppard. That got me into more of the 5150 kind of stuff. That got me eventually into Motley Crue and so on and so forth. And then eventually by the time the 90s came around, then I started getting into Priest. Then I started getting into Iron Maiden. Then I started getting into Metallica. But it really started with Slippery When Wet and that video and that show. So yeah, without that, the connect the dots might have ended up being, I might have ended up being a Bjork fan.
I don't know that. I don't know. I don't see that happening. But you talk about that record. That record is a classic rock record from the 80s. The number of songs that came off of that record that are still relevant today.
And they could have put out more. They could have put out more singles. I Die For You could have been a single. Never Say Goodbye sort of came out as a single, but they didn't really do the whole MTV push with it. They didn't do a video with it.
That was one of the last singles, I think. And that usually when they get to the end of the rope there, they started pushing a little more radio than MTV.
Yeah, it was more of a radio thing, not really much an MTV thing. But they could have kept going. And even people always go, oh, Social Disease is a horrible song. My wife, who's a big Bon Jovi fan, bigger than me maybe, she's like, oh, I hate that song. I was like, no, the whole album was perfect. I mean, okay, they should have put Edge of a Broken Heart on it, but still, otherwise, still a perfect. Are the eggs done? I hear the timer, but yeah,
this damn MacBook.
I have a Mac, whatever desktop here, but yeah, I mean, what a great show, what a great experience, and eventually led to me seeing Def Leppard on the Hysteria tour in the round. I mean, that was another spectacular show. I mean, I have a lot of spectacular shows. I mean, I've seen thousands, but nobody ever did something in the round. I mean, what was that?
Uh, we
They're in
had
the
a
center of
place
the arena.
here in the Albany
Courtside.
area. It was the Starlight Music Theater. It actually was in the round, and the stage turned as
Oh wow,
bands were playing. It was kind of crazy, and they tore it down. Geez, I want to say like 20 years ago.
wow.
But
But for us, seeing Def Leppard in the round, I mean, you go at the Montreal Forum, which is like Madison Square, where it's at the other end. Everything's at the other end, and you walk in, and you see the stage in the middle, and you go, oh, oh, what's that? Why are they there? I don't know. So no, it was a fun thing. And by the way, I'm really loving the flames all over me.
you're on fire, Mitch.
Look at that. There's two of me. Do you know how happy this would make my wife at this moment? Look at that.
Your twin is an only child, from what I'm told.
Yeah, no. But there you go. Yeah, so that Bon Jovi show, just so good. And I know everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of fans get all over Bon Jovi these days. Oh, they haven't done a great album, so whatever, be quiet.
Well, you
They
know what
still
I
put
think
on a
is
great
great
show.
is one of the things that's come out of this whole pandemic and the shutdown is the series of videos that you get from artists who are
Right.
sharing things from home. And I noticed this a couple of weeks ago, John Bon Jovi sharing his personal reviews and recaps
Yeah.
of the different albums. So I was like, that's pretty different and interesting take. And him explaining which songs were his favorites and why
Yep.
different things happened there. And I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I did too. And I posted a couple of them on my Facebook and on my socials. And what I liked about them is that he didn't go into like 18-minute dissertations. It was just like, here are the songs, here's what we did. And most of those clips were like a minute 50 kind of thing.
Yeah, they were
And it was
quick.
great. It was in and out. You got a sort of a slice of life, thought du jour, and you moved on. You didn't have to plan, okay, well, it's a half-hour thing, so I'll watch it tonight when it's just like, click, blah, 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 I'm done. Okay. So, yeah, I wish more people would do that. How cool would it be to see David Lee Roth sit down and do that?
I don't think we could understand him, though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It'd be like,
he talks on a different
oh.
a different plane of existence for David Lee Roth. He's in a different place. You got to really
It'd be fun to see Paul Stanley do it. It would be fun to see Nikki Sixx do it. It would be. I think it'd be great to see people do it, and even bands that I don't like. Even if Bono sat down and did some for U2, and it was a couple of minutes, I might watch it just to see what's up. Just because it's quick, it's digestible. You can get in, get out. I don't know. I think it's a great little thing. Anyway, good on John for doing that, though.
Yeah.
I have to say it's funny because there was one of them in particular where you could tell he was reading the screen. He's going, and it featured the song, oh yeah, Price of Love. What a great song. And then it was King of the Mountain. And it was funny, but yeah, whatever. It's good.
Yeah,
good.
Listen, our memories go. We hit 50 and things start to fall apart. It's just, that's the way life works.
I know. 50 is good though. 50 is the best age.
So I want to ask you a question. So this really intrigued me a couple of weeks ago because Joe Bonamassa started doing his own series of interviews, and he chose to interview you.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I sat there and I watched it. I'm like, wow. I think that says more about you and what you do in the music community.
I have to say one thing about that. What I loved the most about that was this week, actually. There was a press release out about his show. And it said, Joe Bonamassa, live from Nerdville, blah, blah, interviewing the greatest. And it said, Paul Stanley, Mitch Lafon, Neil Sean. I went, that's it. That works for me. That works for me. I like that. That works for me. I'm sandwiched between Neil and Paul. Well, that works for me. But yeah, that was interesting. Joe and he started following me on Twitter a year ago, 2 years ago, at Mitch Lafon, by the way. And I was like, wow. Joe Bonamassa's following me on Twitter. And I'm like, okay, must be just his account manager following, And then he direct messaged me and said, hey, give me a call. Here's my phone number. And I was like, okay. And then, I texted it and it led to whatever. And then I interviewed him. And then he was, hey, you should come on my show. Would you be willing? And be like, what kind of silly question is that? Yeah, of course I'd be willing, you know. And we did the interview, and it was just a lot of fun, and there was no scripting. I had no idea, because when I do an interview, I don't write questions out. I've never written a question out, but I plan. I'll look up my research and I'll go, okay, we got to start with the new project because that's why we're on the phone. Talk about the concert, talk about the album, talk about the biopic, whatever. That's why we're on the phone. You got to respect why we're on the phone. So we start there, and then it'll be, okay, we'll ask this, and we'll arc it all the way down to here. And we'll listen, and they'll say something, and I'll have other notes on the computer screen. They'll say, oh, he said whatever album from 1975. Whoops, we'll look here. And, that's how I do it. But on this one, I had no arc. I had nothing. So I was just like, all right, what's he going to ask me? And it's like, all right, first we'll do this. I'm like, okay. And then, and then he goes, oh, what do you think of Blabbermouth? I was like, oh, okay. So it was interesting because I normally know where the interview is going to start, and I normally know where the interview is going to end because I've sort of mapped it out, even though I don't write the questions. But I had no navigation on this one, so that was an interesting one to sort of have to think on my feet and go, oh, okay then, and people are counting on my answer.
What's interesting to me with Joe is that he's very intimately involved in the business portion of it. And the way he does his tours, he doesn't go to a Live Nation. He books his own tours. He's got a tight group, and he runs the program, which he was talking about with you and with Paul Stanley and with Neil Sean and the other ones, which was helping out musicians who were, kind of stuck at this point in time.
Yeah, he's an absolute great guy, and I think the word nerd really describes him well. When we talk about Nerdville, he really loves his guitars, and he really loves that technical stuff, and he really loves the music, and he really loves following music news, and he really loves whatever, BB King or the Scorpions or whatever band he likes. He really gets into it. He just sits there and he digests it, and it's fascinating because there's a lot of artists, and I'm not going to name names, but they show up to the gig and then they leave, and that's all they do in the music business. Everything else is an accountant takes care of this and the manager takes care of that, and they just go sit and get on their life cycle or whatever. But he lives and breathes music 24 hours a day. And if I were to show up with a whatever, a 1959 whatever guitar, he'd be like, oh my God, and he would want to touch it. And that's fascinating because that's nice to see that somebody, after all their success, still has that, it's Christmas Eve kind of moment every time we talk music. And I love that because I sort of do that too,
Well, you see that over the years with different bands. You lose the passion after some point. It's easy to do. And you see a guy like Joe, and Joe is 45, 40s.
A little bit younger. I think he was born in 74, I think. So just a little bit younger.
So he's fully into it still at this point. And that's fantastic. And I think that's a lot of what the experience is about, that we go to concerts for and listen to music.
Yeah. And now we know that some musicians lose the passion, but I sort of get it. When you've been screwed over by a record company, or when a band guy has, trademarked the band name without telling you, or the record company's not paying, one of the guys I deal with, or I know in the music business, is currently going through forensic accounting for royalties. Well, when you have to hire a forensic accountant to do royalties to make sure that you're being treated right, at some point you just want to go, ugh, F this. Ugh. And I got to go stand on stage tonight. Ugh. Like, I get it, From what I'm seeing is, in Joe's case, I don't think he's going through any of that, because I think he's doing it, if you want it done right, do it yourself.
Right.
And I think that keeps you happy in the long run. But this other artist who's going through the forensic accounting, I can imagine that he just doesn't really want to go on stage and play those songs because he knows that somebody else is cashing the check. And I would be a little pissy. I mean, not that he's pissy, but I could see in 2 or 3 years somebody going, oh, what was that? He's being such a, it's like, yeah, but look what he just went through. 2 years of forensic accounting. I'd be angry too.
Yeah. Well, once you say forensic accountant, my butthole tightens about.
Yeah. Because it's awful. I mean, that's there's accounting, and forensic is like that next level of ugh.
I think that's the sixth gate of hell is when you get the forensic accountant in.
Yeah, and it's expensive, and so I can see why you don't want to, you go sing a song about, love you, baby, and the forensic accountant is going, ooh, somebody else is cashing in on those. Yeah, I'd be annoyed too.
Yeah.
So sometimes you lose the passion, but sometimes it's beaten out of you. Let's be fair.
Well, listen, next time you're in Schenectady or the
Yes.
next time in Montreal, I owe you at least a beer for spending a little time with me and sharing some of your experiences and doing your podcast and all the folks that you interview and just the contribution that you make in a positive way
Yeah, I only want to
to
stay
the music
positive.
industry.
I really only want to stay positive. And people go, oh, you're turtling, you're selling out. Hey, there's a lot of choices. Go listen to somebody else.
Well, I'm extremely grateful that you took some time out of your busy schedule to do this. Hopefully I'm slid in between Don Dokken and Paul Stanley on your end.
You are slid in, let me see. You are slid in between Adrian Vandenberg and Rick Emmett.
Rick Emmett, outstanding. Now you just made my weekend.
I know. And now that I've got this fancy Mitch thing in the back, I'm going to do because I'm doing a Zoom interview with him. So
you got to get the actual green screen, I think, so it doesn't cut out on you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, I need more podcast money.
Mitch, thank you so much for doing this.
Always a pleasure.